Hopefully Lauren will get on. So I'm going to call the Monday, December 14th meeting to order. It is 6:34. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if I could ask Tom and Rob to lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hi, Lauren. I see you made it. Good. Roll call, please.
Deb Pauley.
Here.
Tom Vogel.
Here.
Sandy Burke.
Here.
Connie Hennon. Here. Lauren Pedersen.
Lauren, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, here.
Rob Langheim.
Here.
Ryan Dainert.
Here.
Okay, public comment. Did anybody wish to speak to anything? Okay. Before we move on to the agenda items, we have two special people that we want to honor tonight and express our sincere thanks and gratitude to. Let's start with Rob Langheim. We want to thank you, Rob, for your time that you served on the board and for all your expertise and your insight and your words of wisdom and your passion for education and everything that you brought to the board. And I'll give the board an opportunity to speak while so jump in.
Yeah, Lauren, Rob, I just echo what Deb just said. I always appreciate your insight and the way you explain, the detail you explain your thought process, and I admire that as well. So thank you for your service. I know it is a thankless job and comes with plenty of scrutiny, so appreciate your willingness.
Rob, I'd like to thank you for your dedication to help the Booster Club. I know that that's a passion of yours, and another meeting is just what we all need. But thank you for stepping up and sharing that, and having a vision of how we can bring the community together and involve them in our passion. So, and thanks for the long night talks at the convention. That was always a good chance to get to know you. I greatly appreciate being able to call you a friend.
I echo everybody's thanks, Rob. Thank you for talking me into this. It's been a good experience. I didn't honestly really know that much about what the school board entailed, and when Jesse left, had some pretty good conversations with Rob about it, and it's been for me, a fulfilling way to, try and give back or try and play a part in the community. So thank you for that, and thank you for everything you've done as a board member. I echo Connie's sentiment about the Booster Club. We've done some really cool things there, and I know your work will continue there. So thank you.
I guess, oh, sorry, Lauren, were you gonna go? No, you're fine. Okay, Rob, I would just echo what everybody else has said as well. I feel like you have been a great addition to the board. You definitely are very thoughtful and intentional with what you say, and just really think things through in ways and add perspectives that sometimes other people don't think of. So I really appreciate that, and I wish you nothing but the best. I'm sure I will be seeing you around, but I am sad to see you go.
Yeah, Rob, I agree with everybody else's sentiments as well. I'm very sad to see you go. You are a great addition to the board, and you will be missed. You added a lot of value with insights and your perspectives from a different lens, so I appreciate that, and I want to thank you for stepping up and joining us on this adventure we have here, so thanks.
Okay. Thank you. And just to reiterate, Rob, everything that everybody else said, I want to add that I know you had a real passion for the school district working with the city, and I want to thank you for helping us move forward on that endeavor and for everything you've done, and appreciation for that. We have a little traditional aerial shot of the district, and I will get that to you somehow. So.
Thank you so much, everyone.
And then we have another person.
Skip.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Just like most people, he didn't want any recognition, he made that clear. Renee had told me last week that he had said, I don't want any recognition. And it was like, too bad. And today I had to call and ask a favor for him to take over the meeting when I have to step out for a few minutes. And, well, I didn't tell him why, I just said, are you gonna be at the meeting tonight? He said, it depends. But at any rate, Tom, there are no words to thank you for everything you've done also in your term on the board. I have relied on you heavily as my vice chair, and I appreciate truly.
Thank you.
When I talked you into this a couple of years ago, and you brought great passion, you brought just a phenomenal insight, especially when we were doing the building project with your wealth of knowledge, with especially the CERC part and building, and your passion for doing what's right for kids has always come through. So I sincerely thank you, and
Thank
you
you.
will be missed.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
I really appreciate you driving when I don't like to drive in the winter. And pick me up, and you could drive my car, and I greatly appreciate, we had some really good chats and on our road trips, and I really appreciate that. But most of all, I appreciate you bringing joy through, I get to live through your kids, and your dedication and the excitement and the things that you shared, their celebrations. And because I don't have children here right now, so I just love listening to the stories of how proud you are of them and the accomplishments, and I know that they're successful because of the great parents you and Janae are.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for everything that you've done for us.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
I echo that. Thank you for your service, many years of service to the district. Thank you for, teaching me a lot over the past 18 months. It's been interesting going through negotiations and that kind of stuff, and learned a lot doing that with you. So thank you, and see you around.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll go if that's okay. Tom, thank you for all of your hard work. I know that you have taken a lot of flack over the years, and it's been hard being a board member. It's hard for any of us who have kids, but it's even more difficult for someone who has a spouse that works in the district, and you're very involved in the community, so you hear a lot. And so I thank you. It's a thankless job a lot of the time. Most of the time, I guess. But I appreciate all that you've done. I mean, you took on some very difficult jobs too, like working on the middle school and negotiations. I mean, I really appreciate you doing negotiations because I wanted no part of that. So I appreciate everything that you have done, and you will be missed.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate that.
Tom, I would really like to honor your, I know recognition, but I too, having on the board has been a godsend. You've been very helpful in explaining things and instruction and teaching and in meeting, and so I appreciate all of the hard work that you have put towards the board for the past, 10 years is it? Is it 9 years?
7, I think.
7 years?
7.
So you were a great addition to the board, and you will be missed, and I really wish you would have stayed as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Tom, just to build on everything, one of the main things that I really appreciate you, just for you, but then also just in the role of being on the board, is just the authenticity and the integrity that you have, and that just the willingness to share kind of how you are thinking about a certain topic, the rationale that you provide. You obviously have an incredible amount of knowledge in certain facets of the district, that you've been very generous in terms of sharing your perspective and kind of how things work. And the other thing too is just I guess the ability to confront hard issues and do it again kind of in an honest, authentic way. I think that the district and everyone that's a part of government is better, for it. So really appreciate, your service and looking forward to seeing you, outside the board meetings.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Rob.
At games, right?
Yeah.
Back up and running, yes. So appreciation, Tom, we do have a plaque
Oh.
for you, to put up in your new home.
Thank you,
And I
thank
think the
you.
cards are down there somewhere, aren't they?
Appreciate it.
So, great, well, again, thank you very much, gentlemen. You guys did a Okay, on to consent agenda items. We have the minutes from the last meeting, monthly finance reports for November. Nate and Autumn Warden donated to the food services program $274.45. We have the policies, several policies that are the first and final reading except for the Title IX policy, which is our first reading that will be brought back to us. So make sure you review the policies. If you have any questions or anything, especially on that one, bring them back. We have declaration of surplus items. That was some gym equipment that Joe said we no longer need, that we're disposing of. We have a new hire, speech coach, Jenna Leonard. Resignation of elementary school special ed paraprofessional, Caitlin Wilde. Resignation of varsity cheerleading coach, Amy Shershon. And then we have the renewal of the fall sports coaches. Sports and athletic, or sports and arts, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Lauren. Sandy, did you second?
Second, yes, I can second.
Yeah, Sandy seconds, okay, discussion. Okay, hearing none, roll call please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Tom Vogel,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennin,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Rob Langheim,
Yes.
Ryan Dainert.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, review and act on the FY 20 audit.
So I think that's me.
Yep, I'm just going to introduce you, Blake. So we have with us tonight, virtually, Blake Bodie, who is our district auditor. He did a wonderful job this year, so he's going to give our presentation, so you can accept the annual audit.
Okay, and then is Hope gonna share on the screen or I can as well?
No, she has it shared, right?
Well, it's not shared, but
Or
it's,
she's sharing it on our screen.
So we're on slide 3, audit opinion. You can just jump right in.
Yeah, that one would be.
And when you're ready to go next, say next, and Hope will advance the slide.
Yep.
Okay. So first things first, as I'm the voting officer for the school district. I've been auditing Jordan for 4 or 5 years, sort of lose track of time. But we'll jump right into it. So first things first, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me, raise your hand, and then I think it's easier to sort of answer questions as I'm going through it rather than trying to backtrack. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt, let me know. So back to slide 3, so the audit opinion, essentially why you can check for auditors, an audit opinion. I'm proud to report that the district did receive a unmodified opinion, which is essentially a clean modified opinion. So what that means is that the financial statements are prepared in accordance with US GAAP, and GAAP is generally accepted accounting practices. Moving towards 110, go ahead and advance it. Oh. So we should have a slide that says audit of federal funds. So along with the traditional audit, there is what's called a single audit. So that happens whenever a district has over $700,000 in federal awards. So that means we got more than $750,000 from the federal government, which triggers another compliance audit that's called a single audit. During the year 2020, we had over about $900,000 in federal awards. food service fund. So we test the compliance over those funds that we receive. Specifically, mostly our testing is focused on eligibility related to free and reduced fund price. So making sure that people that are eligible, tourists that are actually benefit from that, and then from the federal government. Moving on from there, we have some audit findings. And then we go on to the next slide, which is on slide 6, that has findings. So there's 3 different types of findings: scientific level findings, Minnesota legal compliance, and then federal requirements. So the only financial statement finding this year is the preparation of financial statements, which that is preparing the entire financial. So right now, I'm going over the executive summary, but the entire financial statements is a long 90-page document. So essentially, you write that, and then make sure you put in or error for doing the numbers, making sure that they all tie up correctly. But we write a lot of the footnotes and a lot of the jargon that goes in there. That's very typical for a district of size. In accordance with last year, I think last year the first one preparation and financial statement, and the second one was material journal entries. I think this is either the second or third full year that Amy has had as finance director. So as she first came in, we had all the ins and outs of the district. Now she finally discovered all the work with the audit and made all the adjustment entries for the years together. Finding so the only other Minnesota legal compliance finding related to student activity. Under the Minnesota legal plan, anytime or doesn't have any activity that is supposed to be closed. What happened during this year is August 14 happened, and some student activity weren't able to happen as we would have prior years. So we just kept those funds open and assume that they're going to roll forward to next year. If they don't have any activity for next year, we again have anything. But assuming that they will hopefully resume, and maybe they won't, I don't know, crystal ball. But that we should be looking at and whether we want to keep those open. I will put a caveat to this: is that is there a sort of a year for those findings to get legal findings? It is this year because there was a local district that I audited this year that didn't have a Minnesota legal compliance finding related to activity. Whether it was lack of approval for expenditures, appropriate expenditures, and activities, there were a plethora of student activity findings. So I wouldn't read into that too much. Caveat. Legal compliance findings is, you know, that there is an extenuating circumstance. A compliance finding that is either black or white, either yes or no. Yeah, there may be a reason why, but it's either a yes or no question. So that's why you have to get legal compliance. As it relates to the federal awards, and that's related to a lot of there were no compliance findings. So we can move on to the next slide, which is actually the cash and investments. And then go to the next slide, we have a nice sort of graph of the cash balance for the district over the past 10 years. So I would say over the past 7 years, we've been relatively consistent and fluctuating. So this is for the entire district. So moving forward from that, we have the general fund halfway. So now we're looking at a graph of ADM served, and I'm sorry if I'm skipping around and you hope. But so this is a graph of ADM served. As we can see, we have a general increase in ADMs over the past 10 years, ever so slightly, with a small dip from last year, 2019, 2020. But again, probably not a trend that I'd be worried about unless those ADM numbers aren't increasing as much as we would hope that they would. And then on the next slide, we have a budget actual sources. So essentially, what we projected our APM as of year end, yeah, APM increased, but the budget actually came in above that. So that's why the big sources expenditure, you have 21 million of expenditures and within $3,000. I would say you thank you. So kudos there. And then the other thing to highlight and just to bring out is that we did have an operating transfer. So we moved funds out of the general fund and into the food service fund for that about $20,000. So in retrospect, we were predicting a final budget decrease in general fund of about $450,000, and we actually only had an increase of $400,000. So we were projecting it to go south, but it didn't go as south as what we were anticipating. So there's a storyline to everything. Moving on from the budget to actual, we're going to talk a little bit about fund balance. So obviously, we want a positive fund balance, pretty big bond rating. If we have a fund balance, we have more cash. Cash produces investment income. And then 3, which might be placed at number 1 for this current environment, is it offers a cushion for unexpected shortfalls, revenues and expenditure wise. So moving on, there we'll go break out of the changes in fund balance. So there's 3 columns on this slide. It has the beginning fund balance, which would agree to the previous budget to actual slide, and then we have the ending fund balance, and then the middle is the change of that $400,000. So within the general fund balance, there are different classifications of fund balance. There's non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, unassigned. Non-spendable are going to be things that we can't convert to anything else. So it's going to be like inventory and prebates. Like we can't get teachers with that fund amount. The next one is going to be restricted, and that is legally restricted by the Minnesota State Department of Education. So if it's typically restricted for operating capital, we can only spend that money on operating capital food expenditures. So sort of the game here, what you want to do is you want to spend down the restricted dollar amounts as much as possible to move that generally into the unassigned portion, because the unassigned is pretty much flex spending. You can use it on whatever you want. So if you needed to use it for XYZ expenditure, you freed up those dollars to move it. Whereas if every single penny of the district was in restricted for teacher development and that evaluation, that means that if we spend money on anything else, we would go into a deficit in time. That's why we always want to spend down our restrictions first and then try and keep them assigned as the last dollar spent in our hierarchy of fund balance. Moving on from there, the next slide sort of goes over the fund balance categories. And again, we have the non-spendable, restricted, and assigned to non-assigned. Again, restricted is legally restricted by outside parties. That committed and unassigned, either the board can restrict those, or either like Amy or Renee can actually assign fund balances. So say we need like a roofing project and we want to show that in our fund balance that we've set it aside, and just assign a portion of the fund balance and say, hey, this is for the roof project, just so that it pulls it out of unassigned and gives us more of sort of a budgeting tool to look at. Moving on from there, we have a sort of a historical trend of fund balances. As you can see, for the past 10 years, it sort of fluctuated. Looks like we were on a streak of about 6 years where we are perpetually increasing, and then this year was our first sort of decrease. Again, crazy things happened this year during the COVID situation. They continue to happen in fiscal year 21. I would say the depending on what the statutes do, one of the biggest calculations and or contributors of the revenue during the year is the state payment from NP. So one thing that I'd like to highlight is when you get funding from the Minnesota Department of Education, they have what's called the 90/10 split. So you get 90% of your revenue during the fiscal year. So if we go back, and I'm sorry about this one, if we go back to 5/11, which has the actual, so we have the state courses there of 7 million. So essentially we get 17 million, or we get 90% of that during the year, and then we get an additional 10%, which is 1.7 million after year end. So we'll still recognize the revenue from an accounting perspective, but cash flow wise, we haven't received that money during the year. So what'll happen in instances of a deficit, like the state of Minnesota grant, is they'll change that 90/10 funding to maybe just for argument's sake, maybe they switch it to an 80/20. So that means for an entire year, they're going to defer another $1.7 million of that revenue. Again, still be able to recognize it for accounting purposes, but we won't have that cash on hand, which is why we always like to include that cash and investments balance, because if we don't have cash, we can't meet our needs to pay the liabilities we have upcoming. So again, we go back to that's 5/15. If we take away 1.7 million from unassigned fund balance, we're pretty close to going into almost a deficit at that point. Not saying, again, we still get to recognize the revenues, but when you take away that much cash, it might present an opportunity where we might need to do some short-term borrowing. And again, that was just not trying to be a doom gloom person, but that's just presenting, hey, what might come in the future, because that was just 80 but we're in the past, like, report. And then we're looking at $3 million of a cash shortfall. So it's something that we need to be cognizant of. Moving on from there, recommendations regarding fund balance. So the OSA, which is the Minnesota State Auditor, recommends 35-50% of operating. That means for the year, if you have $1 million in expenses, on the high end, they want $5 million in fund balance. So that would be 50%. The district's policy is to have 12% of the operating expenditures, which is about 2.6 million. And then if we go to the next slide, we have the last 10 years of where we've been fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. Oh, we are just under that district fund balance policy. Oh, somebody have a question? No? Okay, sorry. So we are just on that 12.33%. And then, yeah, nothing happens, but it's just something that we need to watch. We've traditionally been on it, under it, and then it looks like, again, we took a bigger chunk out of that this year. Moving forward onto the next other slides, we're going to go over some of the other funds. So again, what I just went over is the general fund, and then we'll cover the other funds as well. So moving on from there, we have the community service fund. As you can see, after we did our sort of big expansion and stuff, we had a very healthy community service fund that was doing well. It was growing in leaps and bounds, and it took a hit this year, obviously. When you take a step from that, I'm just going to paint that under the condition of COVID-19. You guys can have community service activities. You probably have to keep them cooking. I wouldn't be too worried about that. Obviously, we have to balance the way it is. moving forward beyond the community service, we next have the food service fund. And this one's a little bit more worrisome of a graph. But then along with sort of the change in the building of the schools, it looks like we were doing very well back in the earlier in this decade, and then I would say right about at that same time, we sort of went backwards on that food service fund balance where we've been eating at it every year. It might look like it had increased this year, but again, that's due to the $25,000 transfer that we had to do. We had many deficit. But right now, it might look like there's fund balance in that fund, but that is all the non-spend of the fund balance. So that's inventory that we have tied up. That's commodities and everything in the food service fund. So actually that balance is at zero. So I should probably be looking at some way to rectify that. I know we sort of have plans in motion, and I know the board is probably aware of what that's going to be, but that's definitely one of the probably more worrisome things for the district. Moving on to the next slide, we have the fund balance of the debt service fund. This debt service fund looks very healthy. We've actually refunded bonds, so that means we have essentially double debt outstanding, but we have $20 million sitting in escrow that's ready to pay off one of those, that double debt once we hit the sort of the financing gate where we can so actually pay off the bond. So it should happen, I believe, in this fiscal. So that'll go down again. The balance of the debt service fund is very increased along with the ability to pay your upcoming debt payments for the fiscal year. Moving on from there, we do have sort of a overall synopsis of expenditures per diem. But what this graph is earlier in the slide, we did the budget to actual and the breakdown of expenditures for different program codes. So what we do is we just take those totals for expenditures and then divide by your total ADMs, so that we get part of a dollar per ADM, like how much are we spending per student on these different programs. And then we do have a state average that takes all of the state's sort of administrative total divided by the total amount of kids in the state, and that's the state average. And then they also have similar size. So districts that are from 500 kids to 1,000 kids put in the or similar size category, and then you can compare those. So as you see, 2019 and 2020 were below both averages for administration. Regular administration, it seems to be that we spend a little bit more than state average similar size. What I can say about that is sometimes you pay for better, but then somebody might look at it on the other side of the barn and say, hey, we overspend that teacher. That might be the board and their negotiations with the teachers. But special education can be a complete sort of role based depending on how many special education need kids you have in your district. They're not proportionally spent. Some districts are just special education districts where they call special ed students, so that drives it up. So that was a tough one to sort of keep a finger on the phone there, but for 2020, we would low. And then same with the food service. 2020, 2019 are both below the average for the state and state. And then the final two slides are sort of just jargon about questions and things new. So I guess I could reiterate that. Do you have any questions on anything at all?
Any questions from anyone on the board?
I don't know if this may not be a question about the audit, but fiscal year 2021, do we have an idea of where the fund balance is gonna be heading?
We're working on it.
Okay.
I'll bring a revised budget, hopefully February, and give you a better outlook then. What I'm gonna show in the truth and taxation, it only shows our adopted budget numbers,
Okay.
because we don't, we haven't, and the numbers don't visualize the extra income or the extra expenses in the truth and taxation.
To be clear for the public, the 2020 fiscal year ended in June.
Yes,
So when we've been speaking to COVID impacts, it was from that kind of mid-March to June period.
yes,
So, this does not represent either funding or costs that were incurred July 1 to date for
No.
COVID.
no.
I have a question. Is there any, because of our fund balance in our food service, being at the bottom, is there any talk about somebody helping us? I mean, how, we can't go if, do we
We're
just keep going?
No, we're looking at that scenario more closely, and we'll have some conversation and recommendations later on in the school year. We have to look at everything from the products and things we have purchased. We have to look at vendors, we have to look at our staffing model, all of those components, and then probably bring forward some recommendations on how we might make some adjustments.
But to clarify on that one, we can take money out of the general fund to pay for food
Yes.
service stuff, so we would never have an issue of, it's the fund balance for the
Correct.
food service.
Right.
It's not the actual dollars we have
Yeah.
to spend in food service.
Yeah.
But, something changed, right? It looked like between, I don't know if it was like 13, 14,
There
and now,
wasn't-
was that a funding formula?
We added
No.
another kitchen
Yep, they added another kitchen
with
and
the middle
then,
school, or,
Oh.
right.
and then used some of the excess funds that they had to help purchase the equipment for
Right.
that kitchen. And to be clear, they don't necessarily want you to have all of that money typically
Sure.
in food service, so it made sense to spend it down at the time.
Yeah.
But we do have to look more closely at what that trend has been from 2016 on, where we seem to be, well, obviously, we had an impact last year, as you said, in terms of the money we were able to make in revenues by not having students on site, and free lunches and all of those components. But you are accurate that we have to better examine what's been happening since that time, since we opened our third kitchen.
Can I ask a question related to what Tom has referenced? He referenced that we can't take money from the general fund to help support food services. Once food services gets their funding back up, is the expectation that they then go back and replenish what they borrowed, or do we do a journal entry to move money back to?
We can't do it that way.
No.
We can only take out of the general fund for food service. We can't take from food service to put into the general fund.
Okay.
And there are many options, we just haven't thoroughly explored them, so I'm hesitant to talk through
Right.
what that might be at this time, because there's a lot we need to look at.
One thing I guess that I'd like to mention, because we try to mention it every year, is that last slide that he had up there was showing the amount, this one right here, perfect, thank you, Hope. The administration expenses that we spend in Jordan District compared to like districts and compared to the state average, and it is less than both of those categories. And then the other thing that have always been real proud of is that our regular instruction, our dollars are above. So we're spending more to educate kids than the state average and the state average similar sizes, and less in administration. So I think that's something to highlight really for Jordan's budget each year.
I guess another thing to highlight, looking at it is, we made some tough choices last year from a budget cut standpoint. We knew that we were gonna spend in a deficit. It's great that we actually spend a little bit less than what we thought we were going to, but, every year we sit up here and fret about what our percentage in the fund balance is and what we're gonna do about it, and then spend to a deficit. So at some point, probably post-COVID here, there's we gotta take a hard look at that and understand how we move forward.
I think the results of it is through a lot of hard work that Amy and her team and Renee do. When I go through the books, Nikki and Amy, it's meticulous. There's, as the auditor said, there's side notes, there's footnotes, there's stars, there's arrows, there's highlights, and that doesn't go unnoticed because that's good bookkeeping. And everything is done so that everything's accountable for and done just impeccable, and you do a really good job, and I'm really proud of the work that you do. So thank you.
Thank you. So I think, well, Blake's, thank you for all your hard work and your team, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to see some of you guys in person.
Yeah. Definitely.
So this is an action item, so we need a motion to approve the FY20 audit.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion from Connie, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ryan. Discussion, further discussion or comments? Roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Tom Vogel,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennon,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Rob Langheim,
Yes.
Ryan Daner.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, truth and taxation presentation.
Now I can tell.
Back up again.
Yeah, I can tell you guys have just been waiting for this. So, you can go to the first slide, Hope. So, Minnesota's truth and taxation law requires that cities, counties, and school districts follow certain steps before adopting a tax levy for the following year. So, one important part of that law requires a mail notice to each property owner in the county, which describes the tax levies proposed by the city, county, and school district, and what % increase such a levy would have. Next. So the second part of the law pertains to a truth in taxation, public meeting for each taxing district. So we are here tonight to talk about our truth in taxation. So I have certain requirements that we have to follow. So we're going to discuss our proposed property tax levy for taxes payable in 2021. We're going to discuss the information on our current budget for fiscal year 21. And then we're going to give the public reasonable amount of time to comment on the proposed property tax levy. This all goes according to Minnesota Statute 275.065. Points to remember. So the revenue formulas are set by the state legislature except for voter-approved referendums. So we have a local levy and a state aid mix, and they're set by the state legislature. An increase in local taxes does not necessarily mean an increase in revenues for the school district. So now we're going to talk about the school year next. Sorry, Hope, next. Now we're going to talk about the school district budget for our current fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2020-2021. So our school district is required to use fund accounting system, meaning we account for our revenues and expenditures using 5 separate funds. There's the general fund, the food service fund, community service fund, a building construction fund, and a debt service fund. And so the general fund, the community service fund, and the debt service fund all have a levy tax component. Next. So our fund accounting revenue, so overview. So general fund is Fund 1. The revenue is based on our student enrollment. A local referendum levy is part of the general fund. This money provides for class instruction, instructional supplies and equipment, and other state and other educational activities. It also supplies special education and state federal mandated programs, extracurricular activities, pupil transportation, facilities operation and maintenance, capital expenditures improvements, and long-term facilities maintenance. Fund 2 is our food service fund. Next. Fund 4 is the community service program. So this levy is based on adult population in the district. It has early childhood family education for under 5 years of age. It provides for enrichment programs for any age level that are not part of the K-12 education program. It has early childhood family education, school readiness, and adult basic education. Next. Fund 7 is the debt service, and that's where the dollars come in from our levy to pay for our outstanding debt. So currently we have a debt for a voter-approved bond issues for the 2003 construction of the high school, the 2003 addition of the elementary school, and the 2014 middle school remodel and the addition of the CERC. Next. So for our fiscal year 21, the adopted budget, so for our revenue, our revenue adopted budget for fiscal year 21 is $26,046,414. It's less than our actuals in 2020 because we projected less enrollment. And the adopted budget revenue does not account for any CARES funding that we're going to get this year. Next. So where does our revenue come from? So 84% is state aid. Our local revenues, which is tax, is 14%, and 2% for federal dollars. Next. So our expenditures for our 2021 adopted budget, the fiscal year adopted budget is $26,370,470, which is a decrease because the board did budget reductions in February of last year. Next. So how are our general fund dollars spent? 5.43% is spent on district and school administration. 3.5% is on district support service. Regular instruction is 47.68%, and that's where the school districts want to spend their money. 1.8% is vocational instruction. 19.02% is special ed, and you can so forth see the rest. Next. So in a pie chart, 62% of our expenditures are on salary, 17% are in benefits, 16% is purchased services, 3% is supplies, and 2% is capital expenditures. So our general fund balance at the end of fiscal year 2020, which is June 30th, 2020, the unassigned fund balance was $8.66 million. The restricted was $241,000, and the capital was $33,252. And the non-spendables, which is prepays and inventory, was about $49,000. Now we're going to talk about our school district levy. So this year, we're doing the 2020 payable 2021 levy. It's certified in 2020, it's collected in 2021, and school districts recognize this revenue in fiscal year 2021-22. Next. The authority for school levies. A school district levy must either be set by state formula or voter approved. Factors impacting tax change. Issues driven by the legislative decisions such as change in sales ratio, change in tax capacity rate structure, and laws mandating code compliance such as long-term facility maintenance plans. Issues determined by the district voter is if they have a voter-approved building bond issue or a voter-approved excess levy referendum. Local factors are inflationary pressure on real estate market, abatements, property improvements, change in an individual assessed market value, and possible change in property classification. So Jordan Public Schools has a local operating referendum of $724 per pupil. This is the amount that every school district receives if no voter-approved operating levy is in place. So for fiscal year, so the certified 2020 versus proposed 2021. So for this proposed 2021, you can see in the column we have a total proposed levy of $5,859,966.57, which is a total decrease over the general fund, community service fund, and the debt redemption fund of a decrease of 0.38%. So the next two slides just show where the dollars. So for instance, the general fund levy, it goes into capital, achievement and integration, reemployment, health and safety, LTFM, safe schools, and so forth. Next. The community education, this is where our basic community education dollars, early childhood family education, school age care, and adjustment from prior years. And the debt service levy is just from voter approved debt service and debt excess adjustments. Next. So our district total levy decreased by 0.38%. However, the referendum market value increased by approximately 5.9%, and the net tax capacity increased by 6.4%. So just a little bit of statistics. If you have if your home is valued at $150,000, the school district portion of the levy decreased by about $43.11. If you have a home valued at $500,000, your school district tax will decrease by 154.75. So whereas pursuant to Minnesota statutes, the school board of the Jordan School District, Jordan, Minnesota, is authorized to make the following proposed tax levies for general purposes. So the general fund levy is $2,445,445.15. Community service is $128,053.72. And the debt service is $3,286,467.70. So the total proposed school tax levy of $5,859,966.57. So therefore be it resolved that the school board of Jordan School District, that the levy to be levied in 2020 be collected in 2021 is set at $5.859 million. And the clerk of the school board is suggested to do that. Are there any questions?
Amy, Hope, could you go up 2 slides real quick? I just wanted to highlight, that one right there, please, levy statistics, thank you. Just to highlight, for those that may have missed it, that your school portion of your levy went down. It looks like the average would have been about 7.5%.
Yep.
You know, about maybe $100 or something like that on average. I can't do that math that quick, but about 7.5%. The school portion of the public's levy would have gone down.
And our financial advisors get this information for us. They call the county,
Yep.
and that way it's up to date. And
Great, any other questions or comments? Okay, this is, the action item is to review and act on the 2020 payable 2021 levy certification, so that's, no.
the
that's
truth in
different.
taxation. I think that's
I don't
different.
think we have to.
We don't have,
No action on this.
okay,
Just a presentation.
Yeah, that's just a
Okay.
presentation.
okay.
So then, if there's no further questions, thank you. Next is to review and act on the 2020 payable 2021 levy certification.
Yep, so my executive summary is pretty much the same as the truth in taxation. So our 2020 pay 2021 levy decreased overall funds by 0.38%. And the referendum market value increased by approximately 5.9%, and the net tax capacity increased by 6.4%. And these are due to these increases, our taxpayers will see a decrease of the school's levy by an average of 7.5%, provided the taxable market value remains the same in payable 2021. So it is my recommendation that the Board of Education certify the levy in the amount of $5,859,966.57.
Okay, so this is a resolution, and it's pursuant to due call and notice thereof a meeting of the School Board of Independent School District number 717, Jordan, Minnesota, was held on the 14th day of December 2020 at 6:30. Following board members were present, that would be all board members are present, Hope will fill that in. And one of you will have to make the motion to approve the following resolution. Whereas pursuant to Minnesota statutes, the school board of the Jordan School District, Jordan, Minnesota, is authorized to make the following proposed tax levies for general purposes. Maintenance general fund, $2,445,445.15. Community service, $128,053.72. Debt service, $3,286,467.70, which does include our referendum. The total proposed school tax levy that we're asking for approval of is $5,859,966.57. Now therefore be it resolved by the school board of Jordan School District, Jordan, Minnesota, that the levy to be levied in 2020, to be collected in 2021 is set at $5,859,966.57. The clerk of the Jordan School Board is authorized to certify the proposed levy to the county auditor of Scott County. So I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion to approve.
Tom makes a motion, is there a second?
This is Sandy, I will second.
Sandy seconds. Okay, discussion, questions, thoughts? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Tom Vogel,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennin,
Yes.
Lauren Pedersen,
Yes.
Rob Langheim,
Yes.
Ryan Daner.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
On to board and administrative reports. Superintendent Stevenson.
Good evening, Chair Polly and members of the board. It's great to see you this evening. I'd like to start off by giving a brief learning model update. Our staff and families have been working really hard in partnership to do distance learning, and we shifted on the 23rd, I believe, of November, the week prior to Thanksgiving, and our staff worked really hard to plan for that transition and have a really responsive model in place. We have also begun prioritizing in-person instruction opportunities for those students that are our most fragile learners, students with individual education plans and special education, 504 plans, RTI students, and EL students have been scheduled and coming on site at all 3 of our buildings on a daily basis, and that's gone really smoothly. Again, thanks to great partnership between families and our staff who have been working really, really hard. Our childcare is up and running. We have somewhere between 90 to 100 students a day participating in that. Shout out to, again, all those families and to Stephen and Jenna and the team for making those things happen very, very quickly. This year's distance learning, we were intentional in making it look different from last year's distance learning with frequent check-ins and synchronous schedules to support our learners. I feel like our staff felt better prepared to do that this year, and our families as well. We are very thankful to have enough devices that we were able to do a one-on-one device. Thank you to the board for making that happen for us this late summer in improving those purchases. Student participation and engagement has been monitored daily, and we've actually had really great attendance and great participation. Our staff has been really intentional in having a plan in place for those students that might miss a session and the follow-up that occurs to support those students and families. I'd like to thank our staff and families because it really has been a great partnership, and we've had really good feedback and suggestions from our families, which is really helpful. That being said, we continue to monitor for an adjustment so that we can get our learners back in school as soon as possible. Our team continues to monitor public health data, working with Scott County, with area superintendents, and truthfully, it's been a really good collaboration. We've been pleased to monitor data that's been trending down recently, and of course, we can't say how that will play out over the Christmas and New Year's holidays. However, we are meeting with our regional support team this week. If you remember back in November, around November 12th, we first met with regional support. And when we did that, we talked about what a plan could look like to transition to more restrictive, but also to less restrictive. And so we do have parameters in place where we would monitor that county number and, more importantly, monitor that trend. We also would look at our local data. Chad and team have been instrumental in reaching out to families, and we have been intentional in communicating with families to continue to let us know if students are quarantined or experiencing symptoms, and our staff has been wonderful about that as well, so that we can have a handle on how our data looks here locally, here at Jordan Public Schools. In addition to that, we look at what the recommendations are and guidance. I think I've shared with the board that as a state, there is a working group that's looking at recommendations to support districts across Minnesota with transitions to less restrictive. Our goal is to meet with regional support on Wednesday and talk to them about a transition plan for us so that we are able to communicate with our public and transition back to a hybrid model. And as we look at that, we will be also communicating out an intentional incubation period just following New Year's, which makes a lot of sense and is very much supported by our public health partners with Scott County. And then continuing that distance learning in mid-January, but communicating to our public a transition date. We're hopeful by semester 2 that we are back in school in hybrid model. In our initial plan that we worked on in November, we talked about looking at natural dates in the calendar. Semester 2 seems to make good sense to us. That's at the tail end of January, unless we are able to do so sooner than that. Of course, we have to look at, what the data says and what new information we could get tomorrow or the next day. But it is our goal to make that transition and have our learners in front of our staff. So more information will be coming on that. We will communicate with our families this week because we think it's important for them to know that we have a plan and there is a transition time in line. I had a question last week where someone thought maybe we'd be in distance learning the rest of the year, and no one wants that. We want to make sure that, it made sense. We made the right decision transitioning for this period to distance learning, but we have a goal to get our kids back when we absolutely safely can, and I'm very confident that we'll be able to transition shortly. Additionally with that, I did include our enrollment update as I do each month, and we continue to be at 1,831 students. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them at this time.
Questions for me?
I just appreciate just what you said with communicating with the public. I think that's the biggest thing. We got enough unknowns in this world.
Yeah.
Not sure which we're going. I was not a fan of going into distance learning, nor am I a fan of staying in distance learning. But what I don't want to do is come out of distance learning and go back into distance learning. I just don't want to do that. So, I appreciate the diligence you guys have spent, your entire team, on really making sure that when we're ready to come out, that we're not gonna, hopefully not gonna end up back in distance learning.
Right,
So.
and that's the goal. We want to be thorough, and we want to make sure we're intentional with health and safety factors for our staff and students. But, that happens in good partnership as well with the Department of Health and Scott County too, so.
I want to commend the staff for what they've done speaking as a parent, right? The experience has been substantially better than it was in the spring, frankly, to nobody's fault, really. It's just being thrown in it versus having 6 months to plan for it. So it's been much better. It's not the same, right? And I think, some of the feedback that I'm hearing that makes a lot of sense is, different children have different learning styles. I was talking to one family who said, hey, I got 2 kids who this is working pretty well for, honestly. But another kid, it just doesn't click with the way they learn and they're struggling with it. And so not only do we have the equity issues surrounding, technology availability or, parents working, that sort of thing, you also just have the equity issue of learning styles in this model. And so very anxious to get back to an in-person option for those kids that really benefit from it.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Superintendent Stevenson. On to the high school report. Jeff, are you on with us? Do you want to give us any update or anything?
Yep, I'm on. Can you guys hear me?
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my report, as reported, just wanted to give a couple of thank yous. One, thank you to Tom and Rob. Really appreciated working with you guys. And good luck as you move out of this public forum. So thank you for that. Number 2, thank you to our parents and our students for their hard work during this distance learning. I know it's not easy, and much like Renee said, we've had some great feedback on things we could do better. And we're continuing to learn and grow every day as we work on that. And then thank you to my staff, our staff, for all of their work that they are putting forth on this. So just appreciate all that we've done in the community, or all the community has done for us throughout this. So if there's any questions, I open it up to questions.
Any questions for our high school principal? Okay. And thank you, Jeff, for all you've done.
Yeah.
Ben, middle school?
Hello, everyone. Everyone hear me all right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I would echo what Jeff said too, just to Tom and Rob, and just thank you for your service to the community and the board. You guys have consistently brought a great perspective for us, so I really appreciate your support of us and most importantly, our kids. So thank you for that. I would just also echo what Jeff said about the community support. It's been fantastic to hear the feedback, both positive and corrective, that people have ideas, but just a thank you to the community and a huge shout out to our staff as well, for really rolling up their sleeves and making this be the best that it can be. And we really look forward to, as a staff, getting kids back in the building. It has been nice over these last few days to get kids in and to be able to service kids in the building. So other than that, I would just open it up to questions.
Anybody from middle school? Questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Ben, also, for all that you do. Melissa, elementary.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me as well?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like, being the third one to go from the principals group, I feel like it's a little bit of a broken record. I see Rob and Tom here on the meeting, and I'm sad because we're kind of coming down to the end of your time with all of us, and I would agree with Jeff and Ben both, in the sentiment that you guys have been amazing board members to work with. You've always been so supportive. Yet I also appreciated the challenges that you've brought to us and always kept us on our toes and always challenged us to think and do our best. So I appreciate that from you guys. In regards to the elementary school, I guess, what Ben was saying, it's so nice to see kids back in our building. I got an email from a teacher the other day how she said she's had the best teaching day she's had in the last several weeks because she's got kids in front of her again. So not only are kids, I think, excited to be back, I know our teachers are excited to have some of our kids back too. Jason Geisel actually stepped up this afternoon and just went above and beyond, taking some of our kids' co-kids into the gym to do phy-ed activities with them, which he didn't have to do. Yet I think that's just such a, I just think that says a lot about our staff. All of our staff do those things on a regular basis. I just got to witness what Jason did in person today, but I just feel like our staff is really stepping up and doing whatever they can to make this distance learning model work as best as it can. At that, I will also take questions that you might have about elementary school.
Thank you, Principal Barnett. Erin, I believe you're on with us. Dr. Yamlin?
I am. I don't have much to add to the report. I just want to thank Rob and Tom for your service on the school board these past years, and echoing the principal's sentiments, just thank you everyone who has been working so hard to make distance learning a success. If there are any questions, I can take those.
Questions for our curriculum director in technology? Thank you, Dr. Yamlin. I don't know if Mr. Perkle is on with us or not, probably not. Okay, any questions or comment on the activities director's report? I guess it looks like we might have some winter sports. Might?
Maybe.
Maybe, maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see. Community ed and rec, I don't believe Stephen's on with us either.
Nope.
Okay, any questions or comment on Stevens? No, okay, marketing director, Ms. Pat Haas, do you have anything for us?
Hi, all. I want to get in on the thank yous too, to Tom and to Rob. Two people that really do love maroon and live gold, for sure, right? So you make my job very easy too, by being in the community and sharing all the things that students do and supporting all of our programs. So thank you. If you have any other questions for me? No? Thanks.
For all you do. Okay, anything on Andrea, the nutrition services report? Special services, Chad?
Can everyone hear me all right?
Oh, yeah, yes,
special education, special services. I really appreciate, just your support and your, time on the board. Beyond that, I just like the building principals. I can't echo enough just the, staff and the excellent work that they have done with our, kids on site. Last week was a very great week with, our special education kids and EL kids on site, and just excited to see kids given the support and services that they need. And yeah, does anyone have any questions beyond what I put in my report?
I don't think so. Anybody?
Renee, could you maybe just give a quick synopsis of what kids on site mean? If members of the public are hearing, a few people refer to that.
Absolutely. So with the governor's executive order, his most recent executive order, one of the components that districts were required to do was take a look at their ability to provide services if they're in a full distance learning model on site for students that might be on an individual education plan, or they might receive EL services. We have students that are bused based on those needs. I think they attend 2 days a week. Work with case managers, get that individualized instruction component. So we have SPEDS, RTI students, EL students. I think our APAC students as well are coming on site, and that's about 2 days a week so that we can accommodate as many students as possible. Some districts made different decisions and just had their most, fragile learners on site, and we felt like with the spirit of the executive order and what they've asked us to do, we had the ability to provide those services, and our staff is incredible and has made that happen.
Thank you.
Yep.
Could I just say something? I had an opportunity to run into a special ed para and have a conversation with her over the weekend, and she got to see one of her students for the first time. And she said, I was trying to think of how I could do social distancing, all of these safety things. And she said she saw her person running down the hall, just full bore. And she said, social distancing. And the person said, okay, I just wanted to see you. And so when we think about learning and stuff, it isn't just always the book stuff. It's that I needed to make that connection with you.
Yep.
And thanks, Chad, for pulling that all together. I greatly appreciate that, and I'm sure the families do too.
And I should add as well, Eric, with Benjamin Bus, phenomenal to make that happen. And I mean, scheduling this was more routes than they typically do normally. Like, it was very complicated, and he bent over backwards to make it happen. So I'm grateful for that as well.
I can attest to that. I happened to stop in a bus garage the day or two before this was starting, and they had spreadsheets all over, and literally they were pulling their hair out trying to figure out, the routes and stuff, but they did it, so they're amazing. So.
I think Eric doesn't ever get enough credit. I really think he always does a phenomenal job, and I think it's a good time to shout out to him. I mean, I just don't think he ever gets enough credit, and thanks for all that he does.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
We're pretty lucky to have him. Thank you. Okay, Technology Director, Stephen?
Again, I don't know what everybody else has said, a thank you to Rob and Tom, but their thank yous were very short, so we're going to be here for a while with this thank you. I feel like you need it one more time. No, again, like everyone else says, thank you. I mean, especially with the technology, for supporting it, seeing its importance in the school district, and seeing how it can really enhance students' education has really been really helpful from at least my department, always knowing that this, not just you two, but the whole school board always sees the need for continuing to improve our technology. For the actual board report, a couple small items, the auditorium with the Booster Club update, that's out there now. There's an RFP. We had some vendors on site last week that kind of get a view, kind of look at the space they're looking to do, and then to hopefully if everything goes to plan, have a system installed by the end of January is what we're shooting for. I'm really trying to use that we are in distance learning. The space is open. It's easy for people to come on site and not have to work around kids' schedules or move kids out of that space when they're trying to practice or use it or something like that. So really hoping forward to try to use this distance learning time efficiently. The other item is our online registration. The project we started back in summer now is officially live on our website. So we've moved away now officially from paper documents that families fill out. Everything is done online if they're either new to the district or they're adding a student through kindergarten or any grade. A little fine tuning Hope and I will have to do over the next couple of days as we kind of start getting our first enrollments in, just to make sure it's running smoothly, and then communication out to families as well. Especially with kindergarten roundup or kindergarten enrollment coming up, that registration will be online this year instead of that paper that they may have done in the past if they've already had a kindergarten to go through. So kind of excited for that and to have that system up and going. But other than that, any other questions?
The upgrades in the auditorium, is that some of the stuff that we had talked about doing if the referendum would have passed?
Some. I mean, it's a part of what is becoming end of life or really needs to be looked at too. This with the Booster Club helped. The auditorium I think was more physical stuff too. Maybe looking at what seating arrangements can be done or whatnot. This is mostly just the sound system side of it. New speakers, new mixer, stuff like that. So it's definitely would have been included in the referendum, but it's not what the referendum would have done.
I want to thank you for your work on the QR codes for the little kids. On the
Oh yeah,
Chromebooks.
that was a new system we implemented
That's
this
been
year.
amazing. I mean, honestly, my kindergartner's about 75% independent on the Chromebook. She loves taking a little barcode in the morning and holding it up, and I think that's kind of cool. Like, I want one on my phone. For
Yeah,
my work.
yeah. I know it is. There's no passwords to remember or anything like that.
So
But
it's
yeah, it
very
is,
cool.
and it's nice that the students were on site and the teachers really could probably see that maybe we weren't going to stay in buildings the whole time, so they really helped practice that and got kids comfortable with it because it's the first time many of these kids had seen a Chromebook, and then just getting them used to it. So when we do go distance learning, which we have now, but they were comfortable and they were like, yep, I can get in, I can, like you said, independent. They already have that part done of it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys.
Yes, thank you, Stephen. You have done some amazing things, implemented some amazing things in technology, so we appreciate that. Thank you. And facilities, Tim.
He's not with us, I
Don't
don't
think
think.
is with us, so I want to thank Tim for his help with the Jordan Dazzle reverse parade. He took care of turning the lights on and off and getting cones for us and working with us custodians to make that possible, so thanks to Tim for that. Okay, school board member reports and committee reports. Let's see, let's start with Sandy. Was there an APAC meeting?
Yes, there was. Chad pretty much summarized it though in his report. It wasn't a huge amount of things. Sorry, I didn't know you were gonna start with me. Where is my APAC meeting notes? I really didn't have a lot of notes on that meeting. We talked about tutoring, authorizing prep time, a half-hour prep time for tutors per week. And there were some trunks they were gonna order for preschool supplies. I think there have been trunks for many other grades if they wanted to have some for preschool. So, that was all the notes that I took from that. I don't know, Renee, you were there
Yep.
for the meeting?
Yep, nope, those were the highlights. You did well.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Scale?
I did not do scale.
I was at Scale. They introduced some of our new legislators and, talked through some of the priorities for Scott County. They mentioned the 169 exchange as well. And it was a lengthy meeting, lots of presentations, but it was nice just to put faces with some of our new membership.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Southwest Metro, I had a couple of meetings. I had to go up this morning to sign the legal documents. Tomorrow night we're having a special meeting to approve the final, approve the certificates of participation on the Dean Lakes properties. So the closing is scheduled to take place on December 20th. So that looks like that is definitely a goal, so that's great news. We did approve, adding St. Michael Albertville as another associate member, so now we not only have, I think it's 4 associate members in southern Minnesota, we've got, 1 St. Michael Albertville, so, they continue to grow, and they're handling it just fine, that the added, staffing. Otherwise, tons of approvals of donations that they got, couple of graduations. Their graduations happen throughout the year. And whenever they have a Jordan student that graduates, they let the superintendent Evenson and myself know, and we're invited to attend those. Other than that, that's about it for Southwest Metro, I guess. So, okay. Booster Club? Rob?
Yep, so as all of you know, we made the decision to be able to donate a fairly healthy sum to the school. That was approved last time that we met, so that was over $57,000. We are still actively putting a process in place where hopefully through the combination of corporate sponsorships, commitments of individual members, as well as proceeds from some of the gambling that we're doing, to be able to create a structure that is enabling some funding for more kind of committed type of activities, so like the assistant coaching, as well as some of the other donations that we were able to make in terms of equipment and other kind of amenities to help kind of boost the experience that kids are able to get through different extracurricular activities, whether it be sports or other activities. So looking forward to continuing to work with the school and as well as the community in terms of some of those opportunities. The one little curveball that we have this month, as all of you know, is just kind of with the shutdown order that for gambling, the 2 bars that we're a part of had to close down their in-dine options, so our gambling's a little bit on pause. We have some contingencies in place for that, so hopefully, fingers crossed that as we go into the new year, things start to open up and we can get back to where we were before.
Great, thanks, Rob. Thanks for all your work on the Booster Club, and we look forward to your continued partnership and being connected with you through that. That was just a phenomenal donation to the district, so thanks to them. Safety and supportive PBIS, I think that's Lauren. I don't think they met, to my knowledge. SEAC, Connie, I don't think they met, did they?
Nope.
Okay, Region 5. MSBA Delegate Assembly. Lauren and Sandy, you want to take that, or do you want me to jump in, or you go ahead if you want to?
You can certainly jump in.
Is Lauren there? Well, we had a first ever virtual delegate assembly, was that 2 weeks ago? I believe it was, I think it'll be 2 weeks ago tomorrow night. It went, I thought, incredibly good considering that it was the first ever, one. The resolutions, all of them were supported by MSBA except one. And I think Lauren wanted to talk to that one, so I don't know if Lauren's still on there or not. But basically, the resolution, some of the resolutions that they passed were, 2 of them were regarding holding harmless to our student count, so that we wouldn't be penalized for a reduction in student enrollment due to COVID. And there's not only MSBA, but all of the MASSA, AMSD, all of the associations have similar policies. So they're going to be heavily petitioning the legislators to honor that. So fingers crossed on that one. Making facilities funding equitable was another one. Improving equalization of school levies. Working on improving staff recruitment and retention. One of the big fears that we hear across the state, actually across the country, is due to all the repercussions of COVID, there's a real fear of a declining, keeping of superintendents and staff. I mean, it's been a tough time, and I think Renee can attest to that from conversations with Deb Henton, the executive director of MASSA. They're seeing a lot of early retirements. Maintaining local decision-making authority, which is one we always is key for us. Redesigning schools to promote individualized learning, to close the digital divide, working on broadband across the state to help with that digital divide. Hearing some of the stories about some of the districts where they don't have any internet. Kids go to the local McDonald's and sit in their car and do their schoolwork.
Yeah.
It's just like unbelievable. So Sandy, Lauren, you want to jump in at all? You're muted,
She's
Sandy.
muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, I thought I had unmuted myself. I would just say that, you know, this is always a really good process. I actually went back and realized that, I've been doing this since 2013. 2012. Because one year, Joe Benko had been the, delegate assembly person, and that year, at kind of the last minute, he wasn't able to go, so I went for him. So, I think this was my 9th delegate assembly. I thought it was more like 7, but it was 9, and it's always amazing to see all of these people come together, and we had some extremely lively discussions. It went a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but I learn a lot. Every time I do this, I learn a lot. And so it's, like we had a very lengthy discussion about fully funding nutritional programs. And that was, you know, it was interesting because the person who proposed it finally withdrew their resolution, which I think a lot of people wanted to vote on it. But it was just very interesting to hear different perspectives from all around the state. And you don't get that really a lot of other places. You hear personal stories, you hear stories about districts, like Deb said, about districts that the kids have to go to McDonald's. I mean, I have a district who, even their school doesn't have good Wi-Fi. And so that makes life a lot really difficult for them to communicate with their students, because if they don't have good Wi-Fi, how are the kids even gonna have any? So it's very educational, and I strongly encourage anyone who is interested, if a position opens up, to apply, because it's a great experience.
And to that point.
And I know I say that every year.
To Sandy's point, this summer, all of the terms will expire, so everybody will be up for election again. So I can never remember what area we are, Area 13, Area 19, Director District 13, or whatever. I think we get like 12 or something like that, delegates. So, yeah, just keep that in mind, because then if you apply and there's more than the number of delegates, then all the districts in our all the school districts in our district actually have an election, and then you would become an alternate if you don't make one of them. But it is grassroots stuff, so it's good stuff. So thanks, Sandy, and thanks, Lauren. Okay, the curriculum committee. We did meet.
We did meet. We talked a lot about, I think the superintendent did the presentation about, one thing that I would like the public to know, and I think it's all over social media. So the teachers a lot of them teach in school. And that was a conversation that we had. Although I see some of the teachers on social media where they change their hats by what class they're in and whatever, and they do their cute things. So that was interesting. It was interesting that Aaron presented how intentional everything is. They do take attendance. every class, they take attendance, and that they have a structured schedule for every single day, every single class. So it is so much different than what Ryan was explaining for spring. It is really, they are learning different this time, and I think that's what's making it successful, because they took so much time to get ready for it.
Thank you. Sandy, you have anything else on that? Okay. Policy committee also met. Want to take that, Sandy?
Yep, we met and, basically we voted on the policies tonight. So, I guess if anybody has any questions about those, hopefully you've all read those. We went through a lot. We had, some pretty lengthy discussion on the first one, I think it was. It was the first one on our agenda. I'm trying to remember, oh wow, this is a really long agenda, so it's hard to,
Didn't we start with Title IX?
Yes, it's the last one. So it was the first one on our agenda, it's the last one on this one. The Title IX, because it's a redo of everything, so that one, we had probably, I would say, like a good 45-minute discussion on that.
Yeah.
At least, just because so much had changed. And so, but the other policies that we went through, there was like pretty minor changes to most. And that's typically what we're doing is we're doing our 3-year cycle. So it's that we are trying to go through all of the policies to make sure we get through all of them every 3 years. So even if there are no changes, we want to just at least put fresh eyes on them and see if there's anything that needs to be changed. So that's all that I had.
Great. Thank you. Did I hit all the committees?
Just
Joint powers.
Joint powers, okay.
We had joint powers last week. There's not a lot going on in the community ed world right now, but Stephen is ready to go when it does. So he picks my brain a lot on what we're doing, and he really works that committee well, seeing what their thoughts are as well. So he's not a lot of activities happening, but he's ready for it when he can.
Okay, board reports. Ryan?
My only thought is I've heard the phrase Rob and Tom about 15 times tonight. I kind of like the ring of it, and I'm suggesting either a YouTube channel or a podcast.
Right.
We can have, dad talk. We can hear about what's going on in the junior class.
I can do that.
Just a suggestion you guys might want to talk over after the meeting tonight.
We can do that. Rob and I can do that. Start a podcast.
So, other than my ideation, just want to thank you guys again for your service and what I've been able to learn from you guys over the last 18 months, and look forward to continuing a friendship outside of the school board.
Thank you.
I hear good things about what's going on in school, and I'm really proud, and it's nice that you guys can go out on a happy note, whatever. And I know Rob will stay, and I know you're active, and you'll find time to be on the committees whenever we need you or whatever, and greatly appreciate everything.
Thanks.
You too, Rob. Greatly appreciate everything that you've done, and I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and enjoy, not COVID lockdown, enjoy
Right.
some time doing something fun and good for yourself and your family.
Now it's my turn. Buckle up. I'm going to channel a little Stephen Damlow right now. And I've got the microphone. No, I did threaten not to come to this meeting if we were going to do this. And I don't like acknowledgement like that. So I'm just going to get everyone back right now. I really appreciate everyone that served on the board with me. I definitely learned more from you, Deb, and Ryan, Connie, Sandy, Rob, and Lauren than I probably ever gave back, and I really appreciate everyone's passion. It really is a thankless job as far as, just a lot of scrutiny. I really appreciate the public and the number of people that have reached out to me that I haven't agreed with, to be honest, that have really challenged my thought process. If any of those are listening, thank you. because it makes you critique what we're doing, and we're doing it better. Thank you to Mr. Helgerson, to Matt, for the leadership you provided this district from the time I started, and the legacy that you leave. And I just really thought these were huge shoes to fill. And we had this discussion before we interviewed anywhere, and we're like, how are we going to do this? And I reiterate again, I think Renee, just phenomenal job, really, Renee, phenomenal job. Has completely exceeded expectations. Kudos to the principals. I appreciate you guys and the dedication that you give. The time that I've got to spend with each one of them and really kind of just pick their brain on how stuff works, and really challenging them why they do what they do. And the fact that they gave me their cell phone number is beyond me. So I appreciate having those. When I may text one of them that there's no lights on in the parking lot, or I need someone to come and get keys to open the track field so I can do a Boy Scout project. I appreciate that too. So, and then all the directors, I really appreciate it. I appreciate Mr. Visner started out. He was the activities director at the time. He started the. It wasn't the Booster Club at the time. It was the facilities committee, and that turned into the Booster Club. And you look at what the Booster Club, that donation they just made in those short years. I mean, phenomenal organization that's really come about in the last few years. Again, thanks to, in no large part, Mr. Visner and some other folks. So, again, anyone that I've missed, I do apologize. And the ones that really didn't sign up for this and get the brunt of the job, and that's my family, to be honest. My wife works in the district, and I know it is extremely hard on her to have me as a board member, because I know I'm vocal, and I know I'm passionate, and I know I don't always agree with things that would make her life easier. I know my name's been put in the paper a couple times where it's made her life more difficult, so I apologize to her for that. And I'm grateful for her, and my kids too. I know there is a lot of scrutiny when you are on a board, and you're kids of a board member. So I'm grateful for them, and send my love to them as well. So again, thank you to the entire district. I know we are we are heading in the right direction. We continue to head in the right direction, and I have no doubt that you guys will continue in that path. And I'm so grateful for all of you, and I'm grateful that I have your cell phone numbers. Thank you.
Lauren, are you with us? Rob?
All right, so that's a little tough to follow, but I'll do my best. And I think that I kind of go back to what were Nicole and I thinking about when we first decided that we wanted to move to Jordan, and then kind of secondly, what were we hoping for as we were looking at different school options for our kids. And I think that our Jordan School District really kind of has the best of all worlds. We wanted some place that was definitely first class. So in terms of being very forward thinking, being innovative, yet being very welcoming and warm, and that's a pretty kind of tough bill to be able to find, and I think that we probably do it better than most, and just really, really appreciative of that, and particularly when kind of first coming to Jordan and kind of where the district was, and then kind of seeing what we've been able to accomplish over a very, very short time frame. I mean, less than 10 years, where you have the full renovation of a middle school, the addition of a CERT, the investments that are made within just some of the different facilities for both just kind of the in-person schooling, the technology investments, and then even some of the extracurricular activities. It's really amazing, and it's really it's a testament to everybody that's on this call right now, as well as some of the folks that we're trying to help build on the legacy that they started. So, kind of first and foremost, just definitely want to thank all of the board members. And so Deb, Tom, Connie, Laura, and Sandy, thank you for taking a chance and allowing me to participate on the board when there was an open seat, and I went through the application process and the interview, and really appreciate you guys giving me a shot. Brian, thanks for letting all of us kind of con you into taking a position when a seat was open. You were just a really, really great addition. And so, you know, one of the things that I really appreciate about this board is that sometimes you don't necessarily know what you're going to get, particularly with community kind of volunteer or kind of elected type of boards, and just how well everyone worked together, the collaborative spirit, the ability to address hard issues, but be able to address them in a very, you know, kind of thoughtful, tactful way. That's one of the things that I really appreciate about all of you, and all of your hearts are in the right place, and I think that we were, you know, kind of very effective, and you are very effective, and hopefully that'll continue, but that's definitely something that I'm very grateful for. In terms of the administrative team, you guys are amazing, so, you know, kind of, Renee, thank you for saying yes, and for Matt, just really appreciated all of the time spent with you and kind of the mentorship in terms of just sharing kind of the nuances of the board and the district. From an administrative team, so Jeff, Ben, Melissa, Chad, Aaron, you guys are really the best of the best. And it's been fun to be able to, you know, kind of see you kind of at work and being able to articulate the vision of the areas that you oversee, the steadfast leadership, particularly this year, the creativity and the flexibility, and more importantly, the understanding. That's really kind of when leadership really shines, when, you know, we go through, you know, kind of things like we went through over the past year or so. And so just, you know, kind of really appreciate that. And both just in terms of not only being able to work with you, but also knowing that what you're doing and the tone that you're setting has a direct impact on the 3 of my kids, plus all of the kids that are in the community. So thank you for that. Even from a technology perspective, definitely thank you for continuing to be, you know, kind of forward thinking and helping us kind of think through what can we do to be able to create a better experience for our kids. Obviously, this worked out pretty well in the pandemic type of situation, but just kind of in general, that's been fantastic. Kat, you've been a constant promoter of the district and being able to tell our story effectively to the community at large. You're a godsend. You're awesome. Tim, from a facility standpoint, I know he's not on the call, but I just constantly making sure that our district shines from that perspective, and the facilities and ways of being able to be creative in terms of being able to maintain and put a good foot forward has been awesome. Stephen, in terms of his leadership at the CERT, first rate. Eric, we mentioned Eric in the busing. Like, oh my God, what a great community that we're in, where, you know, we know all of the key integral parts, and knowing that the person who oversees the buses and how awesome and flexible and gracious, you know, he is. It's just amazing. We have a great staff, and that's, you know, kind of things in part to just kind of where their hearts are and wanting to be a part of this district, but also to the leadership that all of you kind of put forth. And then just, you know, kind of the community at large, and that's just, you know, kind of the special kind of secret sauce of people that live in Jordan. So I've really appreciated my time. These are always, you know, kind of temporary types of positions, and so really, really appreciative and humble to have been able to serve in this capacity, and looking forward to interacting with all of you as a parent and just as a fan of the district at large going forward. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Rob. Sandy?
Did you call me?
Yep.
Sorry, it's hard to hear you. That's really hard to follow. Rob, you thought Tom was hard to follow? Yeah. That was amazing. just so you know, you both are, I think, trending on social media. I had a chance really quickly, earlier when there was a slight break and, like there's a huge post about you both and you're like trending. So,
Rob and Tom show.
Yeah, here we go.
I don't think that's ever happened in my life, Sandy.
I've never had it happen positively.
I don't know if it's officially trending, but you know, it's I think it's, there's a lot of talk on Facebook especially. So anyway, just thank you so much for all that you did. I've already said that how much I appreciate both of you. You know, you're definitely gonna be missed. You left an impact on this district. This whole board, I think, really has just done a great job of working together and being a highly functional board. I think we worked really hard to get to that point because when I started, I will tell you, that was not the case. As Deb's nodding her head. And you both have been a part of that. So I really appreciate that and thank you so much.
Thanks, Sandy. I will just echo that too, and Rob, you had said that. We have an amazing board. We truly do. Everybody has their unique gifts that they bring that, I'm gonna get emotional. That really makes us special. And, I just wanna let you two know that officially your terms don't end until January
Yeah.
31st, so.
No, December.
Or December
December.
31st, so.
Tom's like, no.
So basically, you're still on
Yeah,
call, guys.
yeah.
So, thank you again for everything. And I just have one other shout out I wanna give to, whoever organized the Duck Cup mental health speaker the other night. If you didn't have a chance to sit in on that presentation, it was absolutely moving, phenomenal, incredible. Great tips were given, how you can talk to your kids about, any issues, anxiety or anything, and I know they taped it and it's streamed, I believe, on.
Chelsea Meyer organized it.
Is it on?
Yeah, Chelsea Meyer organized it with the other support staff, and yeah, it is available to all email to families too, so they can
Okay,
watch it.
so I highly recommend, it was the best hour, so kudos to Chelsea Meyer and the rest of the team, so. With that, I think that's it, so one last time.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ryan, roll call.
Deb Pauley,
Yes.
Tom Vogel,
Yes.
Sandy Burke,
Yes.
Connie Hennin,
Yes,
Lauren Pedersen,
I think she's gone.
Lauren, you might be muted. Her name's up there. Okay.
Rob Lingheim,
Yes.
Ryan Diener.
Yes.
We